giving us your time and agreeing to graciously host our webinar and share perspectives from state governments. We look forward to the discussion. I think it's 3 o'clock, and we'll start with the webinar.
We can probably also request Nishant to.
Yes. Nishant was traveling, but
okay.
we can then get started. Yes. Just Ajit ji, just confirming, are we live? Please let us know.
We are. Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Prateek. I'm part of the power markets team at CW. It's a privilege to welcome you all to today's webinar, where we are sort of looking at how India can move green hydrogen projects from policies to project. And we are truly honored to be joined today by senior policymakers, industry leaders, expert, sort of who are shaping the future of India's green hydrogen ecosystem. We are meeting at a time where green hydrogen is not just now being seen as a futuristic idea, but it has now become a global strategic priority. And in the last few years, we have seen several countries, they've integrated green hydrogen as part of their mainstream energy roadmaps. And there is a lot of movement around policies, investments. I think 3 years back, we saw EU launched a hydrogen bank, US again putting in a lot of investment through the IRA Act, and China, our neighbor, sort of is accelerating a lot of investment into electrolyzer manufacturing. But India is also not far behind. The NGHM, the National Green Hydrogen Mission launched by MNRE in 2023, it also sets an ambitious target of 5 million ton per annum by 2030. That's a huge target India is really looking forward to. And that's also backed by a significant potential support, roughly of 19,000 odd crores. And I think just this week, MNRE had another national workshop where they launched a certification program, which is Green Hydrogen Certification Scheme of India. It's again very a foundational step for market credibility. And to substantiate center's effort, the central ministry's effort, states are also mirroring their support towards green hydrogen by releasing their own green hydrogen policies or integrating green hydrogen into the existing policies, where the support again is ranging from how they can create demand, how sort of incentives can be provided for electrolyzer manufacturing and infrastructure development. This is more on the policy side. On the project side, we are also seeing a lot of policy signals, real market signals, where leading Indian companies are announcing bigger plans to have green hydrogen projects. We're looking major ports in India, sort of planning hydrogen hubs, and a lot of pilot projects that are happening in refineries, steel, heavy mobility. These are already underway. But I think these policies and these pilot projects, they won't take us the distance that we aim for in India. We'll have to definitely take a lot of bold steps to unlock the scale that we are looking at. And to that extent, I think three things that needs to be done really is, again, we need to create a demand within the domestic demand within India. And we need to reduce the cost curve drastically, and we need to develop the testing and the certification infra. And above all, I think we need to also mainstream a lot of decentralized applications that are out there. And at CW, we have been fortunate enough to work with the ministry and the research that we'll be sharing today. The 3 new reports that we are sharing has been commissioned by MNRE. We are really thankful to them. And again, the objective here is to sort of bridge the gap between the vision and the action. And lastly, I would like to thank our long-term partners, Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation, for generously supporting these studies. Without further ado, I'll probably invite sort of our esteemed speaker, Sujit ji, to sort of not just tell us what's happening today and take us what must happen next. Thank you, Sujit ji, for having here. I'll probably invite you for the keynote for today's webinar.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. and welcome. It's an honor to be part of CW today. And what I'm going to discuss today is what the basics of the National Green Hydrogen Mission, what we have achieved to date, and what we plan to achieve. It's as you know, the National Green Hydrogen Mission was launched on January 4, 2023, after Prime Minister Modi had announced it in one of his Independence Day speeches a couple of years ago. And the goals are basically six-fold. At least some of this, if you can move to the next slide now. There are six main goals in the National Green Hydrogen Mission. Yes. At least 5 million metric tons, as Pratik has mentioned, annual green hydrogen production, with an associated additional 125 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity, 50 million metric tons per annum of CO2 emission averted because of this, 1 lakh crore of import savings, 8 lakh crore of investment, and 6 lakh green jobs created for our youth and for our professionals. The major activities with an outlay of 19,744 crore they include for financial incentives for green hydrogen production, domestic electrolyzer manufacturing, green ammonia for fertilizers, green hydrogen for refineries. And as far as the ecosystem development goes, we have pilot projects in steel, shipping and transport, significant funding for research and development, funding for testing facilities and infrastructure, which will also be alluded today in the report that we're releasing today. Regulations and standards development, because hydrogen is a highly controlled industry, as you know, and skill development. I'll now go through some of the key achievements that we have made till March 2025. First of all, under the SIDE program, which is the Strategic Interventions for Green Hydrogen Transition, we have awarded 3,000 megawatt or 3 gigawatt of capacity to 15 companies. We have also awarded 8,62,000 tons per annum green hydrogen capacity to 18 companies. Under the green ammonia tender for fertilizers, tender for 7,24,000 tons per annum is invited. And for the refineries, 2 lakh tons per annum has been allocated and 42,000 tons per annum is under tendering. In fact, just 2 days ago, we had the news that one of the refineries at Bina has been commissioned. Under the ecosystem development, the achievements are that under the transport pilot project vertical, 5 projects with 37 hydrogen fuel vehicles, 10 buses and 27 trucks, 9 hydrogen refueling stations, and 10 different routes in the country, which we will describe in the next few slides, have been sanctioned and approved. In the steel sector, 7 projects for the use of green hydrogen in the steel sector, that is direct reduction of iron using 100% hydrogen using vertical shaft blast furnace, and injection of hydrogen in vertical shaft-based DRI, have been approved. In shipping, the Tuticorin port, also known as VOCPA, is to develop a bunkering and refueling facility of 750 cubic meters of green methanol. 2 vessels of 120 ton BP AHTS have been identified for retrofit. In research and development, 23 projects have been awarded. And in testing facilities, after launching the testing scheme, 3 testing facilities have been finalized and more will be awarded soon. In skill development, 41 courses have been developed, 81 master trainers and 330 trainers have been aligned, and 2,198 participants have been trained. And under regulations and standards, 163 standards have been recommended, while 111 standards have been adopted or published. And we are actively working with the regulatory bodies like BIS, OISD, PESO and all to further refine this. Now, if you go to the next slide, this shows a stacked bar chart of the year-wise commissioning of green hydrogen production. You can see that we anticipate, based on the so far announcements, but again, this is not exhaustive because new projects are being announced all the time. We anticipate that by 2030, we will have 2.58 million metric tons of annum of green hydrogen capacity. That is, which includes GH2 refineries, green ammonia to fertilizer units, Renew, NTPC, Semcorp, Hygenco, Avada, Acme, Osior, and AM Green. These are the main announcements so far. Now, if you go to the next slide, the key actions in 2025-26 that we are planning is the award of the balanced pilot projects in the transport sector, award of the green ammonia tender for fertilizer units, award of the green hydrogen tender by oil marketing companies for the refineries, finalizing pilot projects in the shipping sector, award for Center of Excellence for R&D, that's a 100 crore budget outlay, award for Center of Excellence for Scaling and Capacity Building, initiate green shipping corridors, that is partnerships between Indian and EU ports, Rotterdam and Antwerp, to roll out the Green Hydrogen Certification Scheme of India, that's already done on 29th April, workshop on supply chain components with MSMEs, that is also done, setting up of testing facilities, initiate collaboration with H2 Global for joint tender for exports, and launch of projects under the new and innovative methods scheme. This last scheme, I'll allude to a little bit in detail now because that's very important for the especially for the biomass and other sectors. This scheme was launched on 8th November and is now under amendment because some industries had a concern that they were not included in the scheme. So we are just modifying it, and as soon as the modification comes out, we will let you know. And then we are planning to have the call for proposals also issued very soon. Now, if you go to the next slide, which is I just want to show you geographical distribution of the green hydrogen production projects. The legend is H shows the green hydrogen production projects. The red icon shows the fertilizer units. The black icon shows the refineries under Site 2B. And the electrolyzer icon shows the electrolyzer manufacturing. You can see Gujarat has a significant concentration of electrolyzer projects, like in Hazira and other areas. And then you have Karnataka with one. And then you also have Andhra and one in Maharashtra. Okay. If you go to the next final slide, this is a very nice slide which has been made for us. You have basically the consortium routes under the transportation pilot. So you can see there is going to be a Delhi, Faridabad, Delhi to Agra route, then Delhi to Faridabad route. Then there will be an Agra to Greater Noida route. And then you will have an Ahmedabad, Vadodara, Surat under Tata Motors. You will have a Kochi, Edapalli, Kochi, Thiruvananthapuram route in Kerala. And you will have a Bayavaram to Vishakhapatnam route in Andhra made under HPCL and Volvo. And then you will also have a Puri, Konark, and I think it goes all the way to Jamshedpur for the NTPC pilot. In shipping, we have Tuticorin, as I already mentioned, the VOCP port. And then you have the Kochi retrofitting of ships in the Kochi port. And then you also have in Calcutta also, Kolkata, you have retrofitting of ships. So these are some of the, pilots in shipping, transport and steel. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sujit for the very insightful keynote and helping us understand what do ministry plan to do going forward to make it more mainstream and support this ecosystem in large. Now I'll invite my dear colleague Ribhav to take you through some of the findings of the report that we are going to present today. Over to you, Ribhav. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Today we're here to discuss a fairly crucial shift, which is to move green hydrogen in India from policies to projects. This transition from frameworks to activity on the ground is what will effectively determine the success of India's green hydrogen ambitions. The reports we're launching today each shine a light on a different piece of the puzzle. Before I go into the reports themselves, let me take a moment to introduce the Council. The Council on Energy, Environment and Water is one of Asia's leading policy research institutions, and our mission is to impact sustainable development at scale through data, integrated analysis, and strategic outreach. Our work is structured around three broad pillars. First, we focus on the transformations needed to reach net zero targets. This includes transitions in economic systems, power and energy sectors, industrial processes, and livelihoods. Second, we aim to enhance the quality of life by impacting clean air, water, food, cooling, and mobility. Finally, we support these through enablers such as sustainable finance, technology, circular economy principles, climate resilience, and international cooperation. We also drive impact through four special initiatives: the CEEW Green Finance Center, Powering Livelihoods, Emerging Economies, and the UP State Office. We are currently a team of over 340 people who are all multidisciplinary in their education and backgrounds, and we have a footprint across 20 plus Indian states. The presentation today will be divided broadly into three sections, one for each of the reports that have been commissioned by the MNRE. First off, we'll be looking at how the National Green Hydrogen Mission is augmented by state-level policies, followed by the green hydrogen testing infrastructure, and finally, how decentralized applications can be mainstreamed in India. Without further ado, let me jump into the first report. India's policy landscape actually has two cornerstones, which are the green hydrogen policy under the Ministry of Power and the National Green Hydrogen Mission under the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. But currently, 12 states support green hydrogen through various policy measures, 8 of which are through dedicated green hydrogen policies, 2 of which are currently in the draft stage, and 4 are via industrial or power sector related policies. Interestingly, we also see states have been first movers actually when it came to green hydrogen, as evidenced by Tamil Nadu's industrial policy. In this report, we have estimated the potential financial support available under each such policy. In our estimation, we followed a 4-step approach as shown on the slides: policy review, baseline estimation, definition of operational parameters, and finally a state review. Now let me take you through each of these individually. Step 1 was policy review for the various states, wherein we identified and categorized benefits as power and non-power related, with examples which are shown on the slide. Step 2 was to estimate the baseline green hydrogen production. This was done via a mixed approach, which I'll get into in more detail on the next slide. Step 3 was when we defined uniform operational parameters and guiding principles. And we had to follow consistent aggregation principles because the state's policy components vary significantly, wherein we assumed a particular wind to solar mix in wind-solar hybrid projects to optimize for the levelized cost of hydrogen based on our internal modeling. We also assumed that the RE requirement is met from within the states in all except for 6 states, which are categorized as non-windy states. And finally, we took the production model as open access for all states except for 2. Step 4 was state review, wherein we sought feedback from all respective nodal agencies for the 12 states, and we received them from 6. This helped us to refine our assumption and make our policy interpretations better. As shown in the previous slide, we made an estimate of the baseline green hydrogen production in India by 2030. Now, this came out to be 8.33 MTPA. The way we went about this is for the states which had a policy target, shown as green on the table, we've taken those as is. For the other states, we've done a bottom-up estimation after factoring in the following things. Assuming that as per the NGHM plan, refineries and non-urea fertilizers will drive domestic green hydrogen consumption, wherein we've taken refineries to consume 1 MTPA on a pan-India basis by 2030, and non-urea fertilizers to consume 0.5 MTPA. Both of these numbers are then appropriated to the states in proportion to their current consumption of grey hydrogen. We've also looked at export announcements, and we've accounted for the same. Interestingly, 4 states, which are Gujarat, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, and UP, emerge as the highest contributors to the baseline. And this estimate of 8.33 actually exceeds the NGHM target, but I think that just goes to show how ambitious the states have also been in setting up their policies. I'll now pass on the mic to my co-author Vishal, who will take you through the second half of this presentation.
Thank you, Ribhav. So moving on, once we analyzed all these policy documents from different states, what we understood was that there is a broad suite of support components available under each of these. So in order to understand them well, we have created a particular typology to understand the fiscal implications of each of these benefits. Now, these benefits, as you can see, range from exemptions on electricity duty to waivers on transmission charges to capital subsidies, interest subvention, and SGST support. So in order to understand this well, the typology that we've created is we checked whether this will have a direct budgetary implication on the state budget, or whether is it a tax which will not be collected, which we call revenue foregone. And one of these, being the ISTS waiver, is a nationally socialized cost. So in order to understand these three buckets, as you can see on the slide, the power-related benefits as well as the non-power-related benefits are mostly under the budgetary implication basket. And this includes waivers on transmission charges, be it interest subvention, PLI top-ups, and including R&D support as well. And and of course, the revenue foregone component mainly includes electricity duty waiver, which is squarely within the legislative competence of the states, and also the taxes which won't be collected on land support and SGST reimbursement. Now, once we aggregate all these support components is where the larger picture emerges. On the left-hand side in the map, as you can see, there is the quanta and the nature of the support varies across states, and this plays into the strengths and priorities of each of these states. However, when we aggregate all of these together is when the larger picture that emerges is that potentially a support of INR 5.05 lakh crores, which is roughly USD 61 billion, is potentially available for all stakeholders to use and seek benefits of these waivers. And as you can see on the chart on the right, 2/3 of this is roughly from the power-related components, and 1/3 is non-power. So approximately 3.12 lakhs comes just from the power-related support that is available. Just to put this number of 5.05 lakh crores in context, this is 24 times the support that is available under the National Green Hydrogen Mission. So the states are significantly augmenting the priorities set by the national mission. And this implies that India's green hydrogen program is indeed one of the largest in the world, not just in its ambition, but also the scale of support that is available under both the central and the state policies. To give you a snapshot of some of these different incentives that are available in the state policies, we've mapped them out in the report. Some of the key highlights that we would like to draw your attention towards is, for instance, Odisha, which is offering INR rupees 3 per unit power rebate for green hydrogen production under its industrial policies for 20 years. And similarly, Maharashtra, on the other hand, provides a 100% electricity duty waiver for 15 years. There are states like UP, Maharashtra, and Andhra Pradesh, which are offering significant wheeling charges waivers, ranging from 50 to 100% for up to 10 years. Very interestingly, Tamil Nadu and Gujarat are two states which have prioritized giving incentives on the non-power front, and not so much, and not at all on the power-related benefits under their respective policies. It must be noted that Uttar Pradesh provides incentives for R&D support, which is very crucial for the ecosystem, while Rajasthan's policy also has training support in its policy. Punjab and Maharashtra offer a subsidy on hydrogen-based vehicles, which highlights that some states are also focusing on the end-use applications of this. And Haryana and Maharashtra provide subsidy on hydrogen blending with natural gas as well. As you can see, Maharashtra offers a very diverse basket of incentives under its policies. So these are some of the key highlights that we wanted to show. So overall, and this is my last slide, the picture that emerges is that states are making a significant budgetary expenditure through their own budgets to support this. The green color will show you that most states are making direct budgetary allocations to support the green hydrogen ecosystem, while there are some states like UP, Haryana, and Kerala, which are not going to collect some of these taxes and mainly fall in the revenue foregone basket. So with this, I would like to conclude by saying that there is enough support available for the green hydrogen ecosystem under the respective state policies. There is a very diverse basket of incentives which are available for the stakeholders to tap into, and this will be very crucial for India to realize its ambitious green hydrogen targets. I invite everyone to read the full report and please share your feedback with us. And with that, I would like to pass on the baton to my colleague Aditya, who will take us through the next report. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Vishal. Now I'll take you through a glimpse of our second report, which is based on the green hydrogen testing infrastructure and facilities in India. This report is a continuation of our work with the MNRE that we have done last year, which was on standards and approval systems for green hydrogen in India, which made us wonder, do we have sufficient necessary testing facilities and infrastructure in India for these standards? So from our previous report, we have seen that 207 standards have been identified across the green hydrogen value chain. These numbers are till September. Some numbers have been updated, as also pointed out by Mr. Sujit ji. We have identified these standards under 4 major verticals, which are the production, storage and transport, and use application, and the general safety. These standards are then further classified into 4 buckets, which are already adopted or developed in India, standards which are under development, or the standards which are being considered for adoption, or areas where are no global standards. So in this report, we have tried to identify standards where we have already identified the testing infrastructure and the test for these standards. We found that we have identified tests for 56 standards out of the 207 standards which have been adopted for the green hydrogen value chain. We are keeping a pace. As we can see, we have adopted 86 standards and we have already identified 53 standards. We have already identified tests for the 53 standards out of those 86, but we do need to keep a pace with adopting other standards as well. So the next point that we addressed in this report is we tried to map our global counterparts and compare where do we stand as compared to our global counterparts in terms of the testing infrastructure. We have mapped all the 3, the government facilities, the private facilities, as well as the non-profit facilities. The green font represents the facilities which are backed by government. The blue font represents the facilities which are privately owned, and the black font represents the facilities which are non-profit facilities. The bubble color represents the type of testing facilities which are available inside this infrastructure. As you can see, Europe leads the testing infrastructure space with the highest number of facilities available within their geography. North America is the second one, but a point to note about North America is that they have labs like DNV, which has the capability to test the entire value chain of the green hydrogen ecosystem, which is lacking in any other continent. Also, you can easily point out we lack in the testing infrastructure domain, and we need to keep a pace. Also, we have identified few new testing facilities as pointed out by Mr. Sujit ji, which may be missing in this report because these are up till September. But we definitely need to keep a pace with as compared to our global counterparts if we need to ramp up the green hydrogen ecosystem. Next, we have looked on to the key areas where we need to work on. As we have seen, most of the facilities are focusing on the production aspect as of now in the global counterparts. So we tried to look on the key parameters that we need to look for the electrolyzer manufacturing, as it is the starting point for a country like India. So we have identified five key parameters that we need to look for the electrolyzers, which are the performance of the electrolyzer, the durability of the electrolyzers, the adaptability to variable renewable energy for the electrolyzers, the characteristics of the electrolyzers, and the purity of the hydrogen that is being developed by the Indian manufactured electrolyzers. At last, I would like to conclude by pointing out some of the recommendations that we have came up with our analysis. We need to expedite the standards development and identification of testing requirements for these standards. We need to develop a priority list for the infrastructure and develop a estimated budget for these infrastructure. We need to identify critical components for this testing infrastructure. We need to ramp up the international collaboration for these kind of infrastructure. Also, we need to incentivize the private sector. As we can see, most of these facilities as of now in India is backed by the government. Yeah, thank you. With this, I would like to call Harshweta for the next report.
Thank you, Aditya. I'll quickly take you through some of the key takeaways from our report on mainstreaming decentralized green hydrogen in India. So before I get to it, what is decentralized green hydrogen? It is a production of hydrogen by electrolyzers powered by renewable sources such as solar, hydropower, or wind, near or at the point of consumption. And generally, this happens in much smaller quantities compared to other centralized facilities. In the next slide here, the slide shows the use cases we looked into across industrial, commercial, and remote area application. These use cases were specifically looked at due to the unique benefits that we actually get from the use of decentralized green hydrogen. More details about this can actually be seen in our report. So now here under industrial application, hydrogen is already used. It is used as a reducing agent in metallurgical processing and in glass making. It is used as a feedstock for hydrogen peroxide production, as well as in hydrogenation, which actually is used in food processing, in pharma and chemical industry. It's also used as a coolant in thermal power plants. Similarly, it has other application even in the semiconductor industry. Under commercial and remote area application, hydrogen is mainly used as a fuel source for cooking, heavy machinery, telecom towers, microgrids, and military application. For each of these applications, we actually found the break-even cost as well as the potential demand. Here, what I mean by break-even cost is the cost that green hydrogen has to reach to compete with the fuel it's replacing or the hydrogen it's replacing. The potential demand presents the hydrogen demand in the industrial sector, and the commercial and remote area cases, it presents the amount of green hydrogen required to replace the current fuel. In the next slide, we actually showed a graph that we have here that actually shows the potential demand against the break-even cost. The x-axis has a potential demand for green hydrogen. All the application that falls on the right-hand side have a higher potential demand, and the y-axis here has a break-even cost of green hydrogen. All the applications that fall on the upper quadrants actually have a much higher break-even cost, meaning that's already economical right now to use green hydrogen here. I'm going to go through quadrant by quadrant here. I'm going to first start with the top left quadrant. That would be the gray one. Here we see two main applications, glass making and hydrogen peroxide production. Here, since the break-even cost is high and the demand is relatively low at this point, the use of green hydrogen, decentralized green hydrogen, is economical here. In the lower quadrant, in the red quadrant, we see two applications of cooling and thermal power plants and metallurgical processing. Over here, we say that the application of decentralized green hydrogen is limited because the demand is low and the break-even cost is also low. In the next quadrant, the blue quadrant, we actually see multiple commercial and remote area applications, that is as fuel for cooking as well as in heavy machineries. So here we can see that the demand is relatively high and the break-even cost is low, meaning that today the use of decentralized green hydrogen is not economical, but in the future, if the cost of green hydrogen were to come down, then the use of decentralized here would be actually very promising. In the last final quadrant, the green quadrant, here we only have one application at this moment. That's the use of decentralized green hydrogen as a backup power for telecom towers. Here the demand is high today and the break-even cost is also high. So it actually competes with the current fuel source that is used. So along with this, we also actually estimated the potential import reduction as well as the emission reduction. These data can actually be seen in our report. One of the main key takeaways from the previous slide is that the commercial applications today actually have high potential, but are not economical. So with more proactive policy support today, we can actually help unlock this major opportunity for India in green hydrogen future. So to actually make this happen, we have some few recommendations. The next slide here shows that. We have 5 main recommendations. First is to provide low-cost financing. Number 2 is to drive early demand through government green procurement. Number 3 would be to invest in more targeted R&D, especially in the defense applications. Number 4 is to develop hydrogen-specific safety standards which are needed. And lastly is to build public awareness through campaigns and demonstrations. So with these recommendations, we can increase the hydrogen demand and also contribute to the decarbonization of these sectors. And that's the end of our all the reports. I would also like to actually acknowledge my fellow colleagues who actually contributed to all these reports. With that, I hand over this to Karan.
Thank you so much, all the authors, for taking us through the findings of the report and the recommendations that we have on the testing and the decentralized infra front. Now I would like to invite my colleague Karan uh, for a small moderating session that we have on clean proposal. Over to you.
Thank you, Prateek. First of all, I know we presented findings from 3 reports in the webinar. The reports are available on our website and they cover a lot more detail than what we presented. We presented the snippets from each of the reports, which are key highlights. But in each of the reports, there is a lot of nuance, there is a lot of analysis that has gone into it. Participants are encouraged to find the reports on our website. We've put up the links in the chat window. With that said, let me just introduce our panelists for today. We have 2 speakers. First up, we have Shri Shubhendra Kumar Nayak of the Odisha Administrative Services. Mr. Nayak is the Special Secretary in Industries Department in the Government of Odisha. As a Special Secretary, Shri Nayak has been looking after heavy industries and industrial promotion since September 2019. He has been integral to flagship initiatives such as the Industrial Policy Resolution of 2022 and the Make in Odisha Conclave of 2022. In the past, as an officer in the Provincial Administration Service, Shri Shubhendra Kumar Nayak has served the state of Odisha in different departments like Revenue and Disaster Management, Panchayati Raj, Agriculture and Farmers Empowerment, and the Information and Public Relations Department of the Government of Odisha. Welcome, sir. The next speaker that we have represents the green hydrogen ecosystem and the industry and belongs to the Industry Association GH2 India. His name is Mr. Nishant Balshanmugam. Nishant Balshanmugam is the CEO and Director of Green Hydrogen Organization India. He has spearheaded flagship initiatives on capacity building, market creation, particularly the Climate and Energy Transition Finance Initiative. GH2 India is an affiliate of the GH2 organization, a registered Swiss non-profit organization with a mission to accelerate the adoption of green hydrogen to reduce carbon emissions from other sources and from other forms of hydrogen. Let me quickly also take a minute to explain the structure of our discussion going forward today. We have a set of questions or rather discussion points where we would like our eminent panelists to share their perspectives on. I will be posing these questions and eliciting responses from our panelists. The participants are encouraged to please share their questions in the chat window, time permitting towards the end. We will take up a few of these questions as well. These can be addressed to our esteemed panelists, to my colleagues here at CEW who have developed these research reports, and also to our keynote speaker, Shri Sujit Pillai from MNRE. Before jumping into the panel discussion, may I please take this opportunity again to thank Shri Sujit Pillai for his support in developing these reports and for allowing us this opportunity to partner with MNRE and contribute meaningfully to the National Green Hydrogen Mission. So without further ado, I would first invite Shri Shubhendra Kumar Nayak to share perspectives on how green hydrogen is looked at from a state level perspective. We already heard from our keynote speaker, Shri Sujit Pillai, that there is significant activity and progress in the National Green Hydrogen Mission at the central level. What we want to ask you, sir, is what measures by the Odisha government were instrumental in attracting the first large green hydrogen projects in the state that we hear are being developed, are being constructed right now. And if you could please share perspectives on that, we'd be glad to know.
Namaskar and thank you to all for inviting me to this beautifully arranged webinar with a lot of informative slides. And first of all, I'm not an energy specialist or expert. Being member of the Odisha Administrative Service, I look for heavy industries for the last 6 years and to some extent the policy making. And from 2020 onwards, it is our mission to attract these green hydrogen projects. And because green hydrogen opportunity was not just about renewable energy, but it was a new industrial revolution in making, we believe. So our approach focused on mostly 5 pillars. Those were policy readiness, infrastructure development, renewable energy innovation, industrial anchors and green steel vision, investor confidence and early wins. So about policy readiness, we have under, it is wrongly mentioned in your presentation that it is March 23. It is not March 23. It was during Invest Odisha program in December 2022. On 1st of December, the policy was released. That is called Industrial Policy Resolution 2022 Odisha. So after, and in that policy, we have encouraged the green hydrogen units, intending units, with about 30%, as you mentioned in your document, that is 30% capital subsidy without any cap, electricity duty exemption for 20 years, and in tariff 3 rupees, where in priority sector, it is in thrust sector. We have kept in the highest incentivized sector, that is called thrust sector. The next below is priority sector, where we give only 20% capital subsidy and 2 rupees unit electricity tariff reduction or concession, and 100% SGST reimbursement till it reaches 200% of the total investment in plant and machinery. So this is the policy side, how we try to attract various green hydrogen makers. Then is infrastructure development. We have fast-tracked land allocation through our infrastructure development company, that is IDCO, that is Industrial Infrastructure Development Corporation of Odisha. The state government along with the union government have made heavy investment in power evacuation in 2 765 kV substations by PGCIL and complementary 400 kV grids, OPTCL, Odisha Power Transmission Corporation Limited, at Paradip and Gopal. Both are ports. Both are major ports. Next is Paradip and Gopalpur ports are being developed as hydrogen and ammonia bunkering hubs also. Further, third point, renewable energy innovation. We are promoting floating solar projects. Over 500 megawatt plant till now to augment Odisha's clean energy capacity, because we have at least 5 big reservoirs, including Hirakud, Rengali, Indravati, Kolab. There are 5 major projects, as you might be knowing, because in Odisha, the solar installation is not comparable to that in Rajasthan or in the western side of our country. So, but it is slightly better in the western side of our state, that is Sambalpur, Jharsuguda, or the bordering Chhattisgarh. Even then, we are constrained about giving land to land-mounted solar. We have discouraged the units who have approached us not to go for this land-mounted solar, because we will be losing beautiful and potential industrial land for solar. So hence we encouraged this floating solar mechanism, and it is very much being appreciated by the big industries like Adani, Aditya Birla, Vedanta. They are interested to start their mostly captive. As you know, Odisha is a mineral rich state, and we have big steel, aluminium, and other industries downstream or ancillary. So they are very much interested for this innovation, that is floating solar and pump storage. Both are in pipeline, and we are very much interested in attracting those players who can make this happen, that is floating solar and pump storage. Fourth point is industrial anchors and green steel vision. That is, Odisha's existing strength in steel and metallurgy has created natural anchor demand for green hydrogen. We have positioned Odisha to lead the green steel revolution, responding to global decarbonization requirements, especially in European and Japanese markets. Fifth point is investor confidence and early wins. Odisha has secured green ammonia projects worth over $5 billion with commitments from companies like Acme, Avada, Renew, L&T, Osior, and Semco. So these are the 5 measures we have taken for attracting the fast, large green hydrogen projects. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was quite reassuring to know that Odisha takes green hydrogen sector seriously. It not only looks at it from a renewable energy perspective, but also looks at it to be important from a green industrialization perspective. And the policy support provisions that you mentioned, especially the unrestricted 30% capex waiver, the renewable energy waivers of different kinds were really interesting to know. I also particularly noted down that Odisha, because it has a thriving steel industry, is also planning to support the decarbonization of steel industry in the state through green hydrogen initiatives. I would maybe, sir, return to you with a different question. But at this point, I want to invite our next speaker, Mr. Nishant Balashanmugam, to reflect on firstly the activity that is happening in India, the support that state governments in India are complementing the National Green Hydrogen Mission of the central government with, and how do foreign investors or industrial players the large industrial players look at these support provisions that are potentially available for the taking, and how is India viewed from the industry's lens?
Thank you so much, Karan. It's an honor and pleasure to be a part of this dialogue, and I think it's very pertinent, this report that CEW has presented to everybody here. You know, over the last 2 years since the National Green Hydrogen Mission was announced, I think there was a lot of surprises coming, through the course of 2023 and 2024, where the response from industry was phenomenal, and that was backed by state-level policies. And Odisha is one of the greatest examples for state-level support towards green hydrogen. And it's no surprise that the largest number of green hydrogen projects are right now happening in Odisha, right? And it only stands second to Andhra and Kakinada, where AM Green's project is leading the race in terms of reaching FID and completion before anybody else. 3 years ago, I don't think 3 or 4 years ago, people would have ever imagined that India will be in a position to export energy. But here we are, and we know it's going to happen within the decade. So what has enabled this? I think some of the key factors are, the availability of cost-effective renewable energy, the availability of land, but very importantly, the availability of skilled manpower. And that's something I'll touch upon in the second part of my intervention. Now, in terms of the activities here, we've heard a lot of lull in the last 6-7 months in the sector, where there were large project cancellations across the world. But we haven't heard any large project in India being cancelled. And some of the global players that work in India, but also outside, companies like Linde that are supporting blue hydrogen projects and green hydrogen projects in Australia, in other parts of Europe, they've clearly stated that India's advantages are phenomenal. And there is no doubt that we will be one of the leaders in producing green hydrogen going into the future. Of course, you highlighted some of the elements where we lack, which is one example you gave was the testing centers, which is true because the hydrogen economy in other countries, they are more than a decade old, right? Especially in parts of Europe and also in the US, where they had their first, hydrogen fueling station back in 2008, 2009. But now India, in the next 5 years to 7 years, I think will set new benchmarks in the sector. And, it's up to the government agencies and other think tanks and nonprofit foundations to support this entire ecosystem. A lot of them criticized the amount that was given to green hydrogen by the government. And that criticism was immediately debunked by several project developers who claimed that they were getting more benefits, in some cases, more benefits than the IRA. And I think it's evident now your report is showing out some of the numbers. And I don't know if you put a quantum to all the state level support that's being provided, but that is, multiple X's of what the National Green Hydrogen Mission is providing. And some of these projects in certain states that received early stage incentives and waivers from the governments, they are well poised to produce green hydrogen at a very competitive scale. Now, commenting on the global ecosystem and how India can be a part of it, of course, the biggest target of the government is to export green hydrogen and green ammonia. But let's all remind ourselves that this sector today is not driven by price economics. So people are not going to pay the price. Consumers are not going to buy something that is 2 to 3 times more expensive than their current feedstock or alternative. So this has to be a mandate-driven market, and setting targets is merely not enough. We need mandates to come in place very soon for this ecosystem to build, for these projects to get confidence in offtakes, and also to protect the jobs, the investments that are being made in the sector. So with that, India's export potential is humongous. All the large projects in India, anything about a gigawatt size or above, is slated for exports. So more than 85 to 90% of the large volumes coming out of India are being prepared for exports to Europe, and then also Japan and Korea. And the domestic offtakes, although there's huge potential, I don't see that potential being realized without mandates coming in or with the price coming down. Indian companies are supporting the global green hydrogen ecosystem by providing skilled labor. And this goes to even Indian companies doing projects in Oman or in Egypt, where they found themselves hiring people from India to come and execute on these projects, or they're hiring Chinese skilled workers in Egypt and Oman to fulfill. India has tremendous potential in supplying the technical support for this global ecosystem. And there are several examples, right? And also, just before I go into that, I think something else to highlight is the huge electrolyzer capacities that have been announced. India expects about 60 gigawatts to 80 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity to meet their 5 million metric ton target. But the announced project capacities have exceeded more than 20 gigawatts a year by some of the large conglomerates that are looking at vertical integration. There are other foreign players like John Cottrell, Omium here in India already. And there are other players that are present in India, but have not announced manufacturing in India yet. They include Siemens, they include Plug Power, they include ThyssenKrupp Nucera. So all of these companies have large teams in India that is supporting their global projects, but they understand that the market is not here yet, so they're holding back. But very soon they will also view India as a cost competitive destination to manufacture the electrolyzers. And something else to highlight, from the Tuesday workshop that MNRE had conducted for medium and small enterprises, there is a lot of opportunity for these players, within the MSMEs to supply several components for electrolyzers, for the balance of plant, etc. There are very few elements, in fact, if you look at the supply chain of green hydrogen, we are better placed than solar is in terms of localizing the supply chain. And most of the developers we spoke to earlier in February, they were confident of hitting 90 to 95%, and some of them, almost 98 to 100% of localization within the next 5 years. And where are the gaps? They're mainly in the catalysts and the membranes. And I think with states also stepping in to promote those supply chains, and also the MNRE focusing on those gaps and incentivizing players to look at that, especially the nickel-based supply chain, nickel coating, all of that is something India has not built depth and expertise. And I think the larger efforts that can support localization of the components is looking at processing critical minerals in India. And that's something, I think the last budget they allocated they announced the Critical Minerals Act for India. And those kind of initiatives will also further support the larger clean energy ecosystem. So with that, I'll stop. Happy to take any comments or questions. Otherwise, Karan, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nishan, for the perspectives. Like you rightly mentioned, that there was early communication by the industry that India, the benefits that are there in Indian policies are substantial and do compete with the benefits offered in more developed parts of the world. That was also our aspiration in quantifying what is the potential support available in state government policies that augments the National Green Hydrogen Mission support. And as presented in the presentations before, this amounts to 24x, right? So this amounts to about $61 billion as potential final support across all states that are currently supporting green hydrogen in the way they are. And a few states are also developing these green hydrogen policies that will soon be coming up, is what we've heard. So there's potentially even more support that could be accessed by industrial players. One other point that you mentioned on export focus of electrolyzers, and maybe I'll share a reflection here from our research, is that all these policies, the state government policies, are also consciously including support for electrolyzer manufacturing, and not just having support for green hydrogen in their policies. Along with green hydrogen as a thrust sector, electrolyzer manufacturing is also included and supported likewise. So we've been preempting this sort of this dynamic that will come to be with the capacity that's been announced in India and proactively supporting it in India. Nishan, if I may just ask you a quick follow-up question, especially since you mentioned mandates and the importance of offtake in generating domestic demand for green hydrogen. Are there any lessons that you could share on how other countries are supporting offtake? Are there any policy instruments that you've come across which have been effective, which have been instrumental in catalyzing offtake of green hydrogen?
I think the examples where in the presentation you presented itself, which is the policies like Maharashtra, where they were incentivizing consumption, right? So if you look at some of the FIDs in Europe, which predominantly are in the refinery sector, large FIDs, it was a carrot and stick approach, right?
Mhm.
There were mandates, but there were also incentives to follow those mandates. And I think that's a good way to go about handling things in India. And if I remember right, I think the initial thinking under the National Green Hydrogen Mission was for refineries to offtake nearly 20% of the 5 million tons. So close to 900,000 tons was the target. And for 200,000 tons, there were incentives allocated, but those mandates were not put in place. However, we don't need mandates, because if we can incentivize these PSUs by giving tax benefits at the pump, that could really work. Because ultimately, even though the price is high, I think refineries are a low-hanging fruit in terms of the impact on final price, which is quite minimal, and that can be absorbed by putting in various schemes. Just to respond on your comment on electrolyzer manufacturing, I think India itself is on a larger cusp of transformation within the clean energy sector. You've seen the huge growth in manufacturing for solar, wind, and I think states are thinking like this, right? But we may be 5-6 years later than China, but we are following them very closely. And I think Andhra Pradesh, when we met, Sri Chandrababu Naidu, he was very clear. We want ecosystems to build here in the state, right? So it's not just projects. We want manufacturing. We want the development of skilled labor. And I'm glad, from the Prime Minister's office to MNRE, there is a large focus on skilling. And I think we need to continue that. That will be a big export, going from India, contributing to the global decarbonization goals.
Thanks, Nishant. Thanks. Thanks for.
Karan, if I could just point out one thing. Recently, I believe, Nishant, the government of Netherlands came out with a mandate for something like 4% or something. Do you have some details on that, Nishant? Maybe you can mention that.
Yes, they're all part of larger decarbonization goals set by the EU, Sujit. And I think, how we should be approaching this is, let's look at, our larger goals, which is, when is our, net zero ambition 2070. So let's do a pathway towards it, right? And by 2030, how many sectors need to decarbonize leading up to that? And I think there you will have the percentages. However, I think within the shipping sector, there have been targets set, 5% of green fuels being used, or 100% decarbonization of tugboats. Those are all very good examples. And I think within the EU, they are harder on themselves towards these mandates. So I think there are several policies across Europe that are looking at this. Fuel EU Maritime is another good example. 5% by 2030, reaching up to 10%. The IMO has adopted, pretty much the same kind of thresholds. And within the refinery sectors, I'm not sure of the exact number, but those are all things that, we should be learning from and, leading on.
Thanks, Nishant. May I turn to Sri Subhendra Kumar Naik once again? So we heard from Nishant on how the industry looks at green hydrogen and wants to capture great value out of these new green value chains. So we wanted to understand, or we would like to hear from you perspectives on the aspirations that a state has in supporting green hydrogen, right? CapEx subsidy or electricity related support provisions that are there in the policies are really good measures for the industry to put up green hydrogen. If I were to ask you, sir, what are the sort of benefits that the state expects in return from this green hydrogen ecosystem, the green hydrogen economy that will come about? And if you could share any perspectives on that, we'd be glad to know, sir.
Okay, thank you. So when we are offering so much of incentives to this new kind of industry and innovative industry also, we also expect 6 kind of benefits out of it. The green hydrogen ecosystem in Odisha will be transformative driver of industrial economy and environmental progress. That is the first. So economic diversification and growth. It will catalyze new industries in areas like chemicals, green fuels, green steel, and help expand our economic base beyond mining and metallurgy. As you know, we are a mining rich state. So the industries earlier we had 50 years back, so only related to mining. So there were hardly any ancillaries or hardly any apparel or food processing or anything. Now we have all kinds of industries are attracted towards our policy. We have now chemicals and petrochemicals. We have a refinery at Paradip. So there are 3 years from now, IOCL has already done MOU for a naphtha cracker plant, which will attract at least 40 to 50 downstream industries, and we have kept 500 acres for those kind of downstream industry for naphtha cracker for PTA and MEG out of it. That is the economic diversification. First point is economic diversification and growth. Second is green steel and metallurgy leadership. Odisha is uniquely positioned to become a global leader in green steel, decarbonizing one of India's most important India's industrial sectors. Third one is employment creation. High-value jobs in hydrogen production, electrolyzer manufacturing, engineering services, and R&D will emerge, empowering local youth. So, R&D, unlike other states, our R&D is included in the capital investment subsidy. If you bring water, that is included. If you bring a transformer within your industrial periphery, then that is also included in capital investment. So R&D is also our capital inclusive of capital investment subsidy. So R&D centers. Fourth point is export opportunities. With Paradip and Gopalpur as hydrogen export hubs, Odisha will access global green fuel markets, boosting foreign exchange and coastal economic growth. Fifth point, environmental and energy security. It will help in significant reduction in industrial carbon emissions. There is going to be less reliance on imported fossil fuels, strengthening our energy self-sufficiency. Finally, that is the innovative ecosystem. Odisha is poised to become a hub for clean tech innovations, including hydrogen storage, mobility solutions, and green industrial parks. So as I have said earlier, this is not just about energy, but also about building the industrial economy of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was quite a detailed and well-structured response from you. It feels reassuring to know that Odisha looks at green hydrogen from a jobs, growth, and sustainability perspective. Jobs will not just be limited to green hydrogen sector related jobs, but a broader clean tech platform and a clean tech innovation employment that will be supported, and also R&D is catalyzed by the state. Under growth, we are looking at new industries, new economic use cases of green hydrogen that will come in, and also capitalizing on export opportunities by this value chain. And under sustainability, the state is looking at green steel around energy security and indigenizing the energy production within the state as well. So on all these fronts, it is quite reassuring to see the state doing proactive work on green hydrogen. So if I may ask you one more question and go a little bit more elaborately around the land planning and the transmission infrastructure planning that the state has undertaken to support green hydrogen. And given that the state is one of the leading and the early movers in this regard, so what was your approach to facilitating these crucial infrastructures for green hydrogen?
So first of all, we must do something to to attract the green hydrogen producers, it is first is the land. So we have already advised our infrastructure development agency, government agency, that is IDCO, for fast tracking the land allocation to these kind of thrust category of industries. And there is a provision of land bank to create land banks where there could be some plug and play facilities. So first of all, IDCO has secured large tracts of industrial land of Paradip and with the help of Tata Steel SEZ at Gopalpur, offering options for investors. So we have been declared by Government of India as a hydrogen hub. So both Gopalpur and Paradip ports are mostly suitable for these kind of industry because they need to export, mainly exports. So we have an SEZ near Gopalpur port, about 3,000 acres, out of which about 2,000 acres is SEZ and 1,000 acres is DTA area, domestic tariff area. So mostly the OCR, Avada, Acme, those companies are more interested in these SEZ areas. So, and the land is almost plug and play. Any day you deposited money for that land because it is well bounded, it is on the national highway, and there is a utility corridor developed between this SEZ and Gopalpur port. Otherwise, the entire material movement should be around 18 kilometers to the port. But the port and SEZ are placed at only 2 kilometers of distance. So there is a 200 meters of utility corridor built by IDCO on its own cost to facilitate pipelines and road transport movements, and it is a dedicated, no vehicular traffic is allowed, only from industry to port. There is no other vehicles or transportation is allowed in that corridor. So that is the Gopalpur utility corridor, only 2 kilometers. We are developing a dedicated, that I told just now, between Gopalpur Industrial Park and Gopalpur Port to facilitate pipeline and cargo movement. Then you asked about transmission infrastructure. PGCIL, I have already also told during our policy, PGCIL is setting up 765/400 kV substations at Paradip and Gopalpur, integrated through new 765 kV transmission lines to Angul. That is the Talcher area, which is known for coal deposits. OPTCL, our company, Odisha Power Transmission Corporation Limited, OPTCL is developing 400 kV substations to strengthen intrastate connectivity. Next, this ensures stable, high-capacity renewable energy supply to green hydrogen facilities. Next is floating solar and renewable energy. Odisha is leading with floating solar projects to maximize clean energy generation without competing for land. The reservoirs at Hirakud and Rengali are our assets in this regard. Also, we have 3 other assets that is being surveyed. That is Kolab and Indravati in the southern part of Odisha. Rengali and Hirakud are in the northwest part of Odisha. So both are already surveyed by different industries, and they have done the bathymetric survey. And we have also asked our tourism department, fishery department, those are engaged in that area for fishing activities with the fishermen, their livelihood will be lost. And some tourism activities also takes place around Hirakud Reservoir or Rengali Reservoir. So that they will shift their tourism activity to some extent to allow these floating solar makers or the investors to plant their solar units in the, as you know, the ground-mounted solar and floating solar, the cost difference is only 1.5. If the ground-mounted solar is 1 rupee, then the floating solar is for same capacity is 1.5. So people are not discouraged. The investors are not at all discouraged by the investment from the investment perspective. So tankage and port infrastructure. Gopalpur Port is developing 80,000 tons of ammonia storage facilities. Paradip Port has been designated as National Hydrogen Hub by the Government of India. We have also recently signed an MOU with Semcorp to develop green ammonia bunkering and export facilities and Paradip and Gopalpur. Finally, water resources management. Sustainable water sourcing through wastewater reuse and treated water integration is being prioritized. Thus, Odisha is building not just projects but an integrated green hydrogen economy which is ready for investment, production and global leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There is some hesitation from observers of the green hydrogen sector in India that there are these announcements, there are these schemes that get launched, there are MOUs being signed, and other activities that are happening in the space. But there's no concrete action, is what they say. I think, sir, the way you've explained the plans of the state, that that the state has proactively planned for land, be it in SEZs or be it land classified for trust sectors or infrastructure, be it intrastate transmission and the dedicated lines that will be established to support green hydrogen, water, and also the port infrastructure that you are planning for, and allowing private sector participants also to develop this infrastructure along with the state is something really interesting to hear and very valuable, also coming directly from the state, that there is enough thought that has gone into it, there is enough support that is available, and there is enough activity also that will be seen in the green hydrogen sector going forward. Thank you, sir. May I just ask Nishan to come in once again and share perspectives on from his conversations with the industrial players and large developers on what are the practical aspects with availing the incentives, or any experience around how easy, how convenient it is for private players, for businesses to interact with state governments, with the central government, and avail the incentives, the multifaceted incentives that are there in the respective policies. Nishant, you're on mute, if I may.
Sorry. So I said, we'll have to rephrase your question and then give you an answer, because I don't think developers are feeling challenged to avail these incentives, number one, right? Number two, state governments, we've done roundtables for Gujarat, for Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Kerala. So state governments are keen to understand, in spite of, the limited knowledge that exists within these, stakeholder groups. I think states have, stepped up, build their own capacities, and also deep dove into these policies and incentives that they've provided. And Odisha is a leader in this case. And you heard from, Mr. Kumar as well, how wide and deep they've thought about this. It's not just about the projects, it's about the entire ecosystem that they're trying to build. But if you speak to the developers today, where are their concerns? Their concerns are, they're multifold, but primarily it's on getting connectivity to these projects, right? Some of these timelines, there are different bodies across, the sector that look at different aspects. So bridging that gap, having some, I think MNRE has made honest efforts, but it's not a simple task, because green hydrogen is so versatile. Its applications are across so many sectors, and it requires, stronger coordination, better understanding across the stakeholder groups, right? Because, we have these meetings and we're sitting with, certain departments alone, but there are so many other departments within the state that need to be involved. And I think that is one area that, governments need to take a more stronger effort to bring together. The other challenges that developers are facing, of course, this is the elephant in the room, which is the offtakes themselves, right? Now, this will impede some of the incentives that will be disbursed. Because if the market is not going to be there, if they're not able to sell their product, why would they invest huge amounts to build their facilities? So, that if any developer, if I have to speak for the developers, it's these issues. And I think, there has been considerable effort from government agencies, but it's simply not enough. And I think the biggest thing, this came out of a conversation I had with leadership at 2 companies yesterday, which is people need to change their perspective, because there are so many departments looking at various other sectors, and it's the same thinking that comes and it's being applied into green hydrogen. We need to remind ourselves it's a novel sector. It's not established yet, right? So we need to come in with that perspective that we need to give it some sort of special recognition, special status, right? Little things like classifying green ammonia, because green ammonia, even though it's not carbon intensive, it's still being classified under the same, segments as gray ammonia, right? And all of this requires a change and shift in perspectives and thinking. And the same thing goes to the green ammonia tenders. When the solar tenders had come out earlier, 10 years, 15 years ago, there were a lot of ways in which they were looking to catalyze the sector. But in these tenders now, even with the refineries, there's been a lot of roadblocks and challenges for the developers. And I think people need to change the perspective and give it more leeway, give it more consideration, and ensure that, this multi-sectoral coordination is seamless. And it's only then that developers will have a smooth road to go ahead.
Thank you, Nishan. Thank you for putting it so succinctly. And thank you also for paraphrasing my question and unequivocally stating that there are no challenges. There are concerns such as connectivity, coordination, consideration, if I may also add to that, that should be given due consideration to green hydrogen sector. But thanks for that message. We are 8 minutes from closing the session. So I would just turn to one of the questions that was interesting in the chat, wherein someone was asking how can the hydrogen economy reduce in its costs, and where can the gap between applications, what they require, and what green hydrogen can be produced at today can be met. And I can take a quick shot at answering this. Economies of scale will help. Technological progress will help, right? There is clear trajectory that one can foresee in the cost of electrolyzers going down, in the cost of RE also improving, and that will definitely help. And developing technology, improving efficiencies, improving system efficiencies, improving the technology in itself will also help this shift. And if I may ask our keynote speaker, Shri Sujit Pillai ji, to also share perspectives on how R&D is supported by the ministry and what all initiatives are taken under that scheme. That could be the one last question that we address in today's webinar.
Thank you, Karan, for the question. As you know, the ministry has 400 crores earmarked for R&D. And under this, we have already awarded 21 projects. Two are under approval, would have been approved for awarding. And basically, these projects range from hydrogen production to applications to biomass to safety. So we have covered the entire gamut of hydrogen except for storage. Storage, we still weren't able to find projects that fit the needs of National Green Hydrogen Mission. So that we'll have a second call coming up. And you'll hear more about these projects in the coming weeks through a press release, as well as through, we plan to, under the National Green Hydrogen Mission R&D scheme, hold an annual conference, R&D conference as well. Which will be holding in partnership with CEW. So we will be organizing such a conference as well. I'd like to just state one thing about something called the learning curve. As you know, in solar, you have something called Swanson's law, which states that with every doubling of module capacity, the cost comes down by 20%. Similarly, in hydrogen also, you will have a learning curve. And also, what I hear from some developers, especially some MSMEs, is that there is going to be such a huge demand for green hydrogen, especially in the western parts of India, on hydrogen to chemicals. I met one developer yesterday who said he has already inquiries from 80 to 100 companies just on replacing the gray hydrogen with green hydrogen for producing chemicals. So I think the green hydrogen sector is a very exciting sector, and not many people realize the full spectrum of uses that hydrogen has. It's very easy to dismiss hydrogen as a one-shot wonder, but actually it has a number of uses, not only in terms of as a chemicals feedstock, but also in energy. Like it's used, for example, desulfurization of oil, as you all know, is used for making hydrogen peroxide. There are so many. It's used in ceramics, for example. There are just so many applications of hydrogen that I feel that from the current 6 million metric tons of hydrogen that we produce in India today, your report has focused, I think, a doubling of that by 2030, right? So we as the applications come, and as I said, as I say, necessity is the mother of invention. So as the applications come for hydrogen, more and more people realize that that hydrogen is needed, you will find this economy really growing in a big way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for explaining the concept of learning curves, and also for pointing out to the initial activity that is happening in the green hydrogen sector, which will enable this learning curve. I'll just I'll just maybe try and summarize the conversation. We heard actively from Shri Subhendra Kumar Naik on the different ways in which they take green hydrogen seriously, the different benefits that a green hydrogen economy can portend to a particular state government, and also the various ways in which a state government is supporting green hydrogen, either by actively supporting it through some incentives, some waivers, some monetary measures like those, or through concerted planning, which involves planning for resources and infrastructures that will be necessary, that will be shared across all participants. We also heard from Nishant on how the industry looks at India, what are the prospects for the green hydrogen economy, what are the focus areas of private developers, what are the considerations, concerns, and what is the outlook when it comes to green hydrogen in India. And as far as the topic of today's conversation goes, we feel a lot more confident going out of this session that green hydrogen's journey from policies to projects is being supported structurally and in a well thought out way. With that, I may just ask our panelists, Shri Subhendra Kumar Naik, Mr. Nishant Bal Shanmugam, and our keynote speaker, to quickly share one last thought, and then we can have a concluding remarks by my colleague Prateek. Mr. Naik?
Yeah. So, a very, very much insightful webinar it is, and I am appreciative of the entire gathering of the experts present in the webinar, and this will definitely enlighten us to go forward in bringing more decarbonization to the state, and hopefully we'll be working with innovation R&D centers and CEEW in the next few days.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Nishant?
Well, Karan, I think conversations like these need to be happening. And I think in one of the presentations, y'all highlighted that things keep changing so often and so fast. And that's so true. It's across the entire spectrum of green hydrogen, because countries are ambitious, companies are ambitious. There's a lot of innovation happening. And even, Dr. Sujit has been leading so many changes. Every month I meet Dr. Pillai, I hear about something new that the government is doing, and we need to continue these efforts. We need to work together, more importantly. And I think what you guys have done here, is of great value to the industry as well, and also for external stakeholders, to look at India with a different perspective. And my final message is that, green hydrogen holds the greatest opportunity for India in the energy space. And it also supports decarbonization, and it also supports, the helping our current account deficit, with all the dollar-denominated fossil fuel exports. So I think we all need to go all hands on deck, 100% in, and make this a resounding success.
Thank you, Nishan. May I please invite Shri Sujit Pillai to...
Yes. So I'll just confine my remarks to about 5 to 6 sentences. Green hydrogen is pivotal to India's decarbonization strategy, addressing hard-to-abate sectors and reducing fossil fuel dependence. The NGHM, with substantial funding and structured initiatives like the Strategic Intervention for Green Hydrogen Transition, or SITE, pilot projects, certification, R&D, and so on, positions India to achieve its 5 million metric tons per annum production target by 2030, driving economic growth through approximately 8 lakh crore investments and creating 6 lakh new jobs. Timely execution, however, infrastructure development and stakeholder collaboration are essential to meeting these goals, which will ensure our energy security. As you're all aware, there was an energy security conference organized by International Energy Agency a few days ago. And the theme of that conference was energy security is national security. So I think with the green hydrogen mission, we can establish India as global green hydrogen leader and ensure our energy security.
Thank you, sir. I know there are a few questions in the chat. Due to paucity of time, we won't be able to take them. But participants are encouraged to find our reports on the website, to contact the authors, and have this conversation over email or other forms of electronic media. I now hand it over to Prateek to conclude with a vote of thanks and his concluding remarks.
Thank you so much, Karan. And as we bring this session to a close, I wanted to sort of extend our deepest appreciation to our esteemed panelists and the thoughtful conversation that has happened, which Karan has already summarized well. We are extremely grateful to Sujit Pillai ji for his keynote address, and again setting a very strong vision for the entire green hydrogen ecosystem, and how MNRE is very keenly looking forward on a very crucial enabler, which is R&D. So thank you, Sujit ji, for giving us your time out of a busy schedule. I also want to take time to thank our moderator, Karan, again for a very productive session today. And also to all the participants who have joined online post-lunch, which is generally hard. And for all the insightful questions that have enriched the entire discussion. And I think lastly, our dedicated team at CW, the IT team, the admin team, the out team, I think without them, this session would not have been possible. Thank you so much for your participation and support. Thank you. And with that, we'll bring it to a close.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naik ji. Thank you. Thank you, Nishan.